to the Quiet Warrior Show, where we help top leaders find their pathway to incredible success and a lifetime of happiness. Here is your host, Tom Dutta, the Quiet Warrior.
Welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show. My name is Tom Dutta, and I am the Quiet Warrior. And I'm excited to have on the show today Mr. Steve Anderson. Hey, Steve, welcome to the show.
Tom, what a pleasure to be on the show with you. Thank you for having me.
Now, this is exciting. I've been after you to come on the show, and I got to just say that you're calling me from somewhere down in the U.S. named Franklin, Tennessee, and I'm up here in Vancouver, British Columbia. So it's great to connect by virtual technology.
Absolutely.
Now, Steve, we have a lot to talk about, and the reason why I got you on the show is there's two stories here. One, as you know, is the hero's journey. I like to have successful people on who tell their backstory about how they got there, the goods and the bads. But something happened recently to you that I call it a phenom story, and I know you don't have an ego, but we'll get to that in just a moment. Why don't you tell us a couple things about yourself?
Well, I've been in the insurance industry from a career perspective virtually since out of college. And the last 20 years have had my own firm helping primarily insurance agents in the U.S. and brokers in Canada. I actually do have a few Canadian clients. Use technology, understand it, figure out what to do, how to implement it, how to maximize it in a consulting basis, as well as products, services, speaking, and so just really helping the industry embrace all of the new technology that's been coming around for, again, the last 20 plus years now. So been a great gig, have loved interacting, and it gives me a chance to do the research I love to do on all the new things coming.
It's pretty amazing. Thanks for that. And as I said, you don't have an ego, so I'm going to build you up a bit from your bio. One of the things that I don't think I told you before the show about my background is I spent from early 2000s till about 2007. I was the CEO of an insurance company, and it was part of a global insurance company. And during that time, I started seeing the wave of technology come in. We sold life and health insurance, and we had a technology that was wrapped around it. Our clients were banks, auto dealers, and credit unions. But I started to see that wave coming through. So it's an honor to have a man like you on the show. A little bit more about Steve, everybody, to see his greatness. He's a trusted authority on risk. It's a big deal when you're an authority on something. Technology, productivity, innovation. Steve's told you a little bit about his background is the insurance industry. Wow, 35 years, staying power. And the phenom story wraps itself around this. He's the author of a book called The Bezos Letters, 14 Principles to Grow Your Business Like Amazon, released in September this year by Morgan James Publishing out of New York. More on that in a bit. A professional speaker. I like the word futurist. I'm sure we'll hear a bit about that. And then maybe just to tell people that, you're not just an authority, but you value education. You've done your time. You've got a bachelor's of business administration and economics from Taylor University and a master's in legal studies with an emphasis on insurance law from University of District of Columbia. So lots to you. The thing that gets my heart the most about your bio is this last point, Steve. Your wife, Karen, you have 2 married daughters and 7 grandchildren.
Yes, we do. And actually 7, 6 and under, and they were all here over Christmas. So it was a bit chaotic and fun and tiring and, all of those things. So,
well, that's awesome. Well, I have one, so you're a mentor to me. And you know what? That's where all the fun in life comes from. So we'll do a separate show with you on how to be a granddad.
I'm working on that too.
Yeah. So Steve, why don't you take us back to where it started? I mean, some people start where the day they were born, some start somewhere. Get us into the story where you started and how you arrived at where you are today, and then we'll jump into a bit about that book.
Well, I so again, I'll try and do this quick, but I actually started in the insurance business working for my father-in-law. He had an independent agency in the Washington, D.C. area. I was out of college, several reasons, but came in to help him out for a few years and actually found out that I enjoyed the industry and all the opportunities that were there. Kind of fast forward, I left his agency. We moved to Dallas-Fort Worth area, started doing some consulting, and then went back into an insurance agency. And that's really where I got my technology foundation in terms of operations in an agency. Spent almost 10 years there, and then in '99 decided to strike out on my own, doing research, writing, speaking, and consulting around. And then again, you think of the early 2000s, the internet was just starting to come, and all kinds of technology was coming along. And certainly my niche, agents and brokers, were kind of deer in the headlight. They needed help. So some of those years in Texas were hard. That's the reality. I like to tell people I'm a 35-year overnight success. And often people don't realize that it takes a lot of work and a lot of time and a lot of problems, heartache, all those kinds of things that kind of mold you into who you become. And lots of mentors along the way that helped me. One of the revelations, I'll say this, in the '90s was I thought I could sell well, and really discovered, one, that wasn't my passion, and two, I wasn't very good at it. And so as a insurance agent trying to sell businesses the insurance they needed, that was a real struggle for me, and until I was able to pivot and take all the knowledge I had about insurance, but then marry it with the technology and really become the in-between person, translating the technology talk into insurance. And so today I do a lot of work around emerging risk. So Ubers and drones and 3D printing and all the technologies we see, what are the insurance implications of that, and helping agents and brokers understand it better so they can better protect their clients.
Yeah, it's just amazing work. And I look at your body of work, and certainly the fact that you're a futurist and you're looking at the future and predicting trends, but you've been in the trenches. I was looking at the book, and we'll get to that more for sure. There's one principle that stood out to me, and that is, it's called successful failure, encourage successful failure. And sometimes I have people on the show and they just talk about how great they are. This is not Steve Anderson for sure. You're a man who can express vulnerability and struggle. You just told us a bit about that with your own career. Tell us your biggest failure. I mean, what was something that really stopped you in your tracks along the way to this great success?
Oh, that's a really good question. Gosh, I'll be honest. My biggest failure was probably about '93, '94, when I was struggling to make money to sell insurance and couldn't make the mortgage payment for a couple of months, and wasn't upfront with my wife about it, and had somebody stop by the house to see if we were still there. And so tough times for us personally, tough times for me individually. And kind of gave the, I guess, kick in the pants I needed to, okay, I can't let this happen anymore, and figure out what else I needed to do. So big failure, and it propelled me along a path that I've been on now for, 25 plus years, to be where I am now. And so, yeah.
Wow. First of all, thank you for sharing that. I mean, the courage to share that story. It's a painful one. Many people can relate when they hear that, Steve. I think you know this. There's people all over the world that have trouble making their mortgage payments or run into situations. And to see somebody like you who's successful and has come through that, there's the word resilience comes to mind. Most people have two paths. They can become resilient and push forward and do something different to make sure they never go back in that space again. Others, they don't make it through. So,
yeah.
So congratulations.
Well, and thank you. But, and one of the phrases, I have been coming back to quite a bit over the last few years, is don't give up before the miracle. And, you again hear stories over and over of, people who gave up too soon, and a bit of that persistence, which I do have. But, I think that's important.
Yeah, the lived experience. You had my mind go in different directions when you told that short story. I didn't know you were going to tell that, but when I was a kid, my father was in the union. He was an electrician. He eventually became a journeyman and then a teacher. He taught the electrical trades. My parents are from Fiji. My dad died in 18. I miss him. But I remember times where dad was laid off and, mom had to go and clean classrooms and do things just to pay the mortgage. I didn't
Hmm.
really realize the impact of that until later today when I was in an executive career and I was downsized through a three-way merger. And I had that moment as well where I didn't know how to pay the mortgage and I was hiding it from my own wife. so,
Hmm. Yeah,
so, so it's,
probably not a good thing to do. Hopefully we've learned from that, but
yeah, we have.
yeah.
So such a relatable story. So it tells us there's some strength behind you. Let's get into something I'm passionate about, which is your book. Now I've read it, but I want to read the passage from the front of it. Just share it with the audience here. It says, "Imagine having Amazon founder and CEO Jeff Bezos as your business coach. I jump at that chance, the chance to ask him the not so simple question: How exactly did you grow Amazon? Unfortunately, that's probably not going to happen for you or me, but fortunately." In the Bezos letters, my friend Steve Anderson has provided the next best thing. Reading the Bezos letters is like having Bezos as your business coach. When you apply Steve's 14 growth principles revealed in it to your business, you'll have everything you need to grow your business like Amazon. And that was Michael Hyatt, who's a best-selling author, New York Times, and Michael Hyatt and Company. So let's go there. I mean, why did you write this book? And just tell us all about that.
So again, back to the insurance, I was working with a group in the industry here in the U.S., and we were looking at the changing nature of risk. So all that technology and how is risk changing. And that really prompted me to start thinking about business success and how risk and growth are connected. And in the industry, right, we're all about minimizing risk,
Yeah.
not taking risk, right, avoiding risk. And I realized with technology developing as rapidly as it is, and continues, and I don't see it that slowing down, the biggest risk a business faces today is actually not taking enough risk. So I started researching at companies, right? Who was successful, who was not, why, right? All those kinds of things. And certainly the unsuccessfuls, the big names we kind of know, like Kodak and BlackBerry and Blockbuster and now Sears and a few of those. But I was also looking at companies that had made the transition well over the years, and certainly Amazon came up. And that's when I really discovered, and I sort of knew they were there, but I really discovered the shareholder letters that Jeff Bezos has written now for 21 years to Amazon shareholders. And as I started reading through, and I kind of picked a few, then I read more and I read more. And then I literally sat down over a couple of days and read all, at that time, 20 letters, and realized he laid out what I call hidden in plain sight, his plan for growing Amazon. And I thought, this is amazing. People should know about this. This is some really good stuff. And so literally I put together a kind of a short one-page executive summary of each of the 20 letters. I was creating an ebook to give it away, right? Give me
Yeah.
your email address and here's some good information about how Amazon has done it. And I sent it actually to my wife and also to David Hancock, the founder of Morgan James Publishing. And they both came back literally the next day and said, this isn't a white paper, this is a book.
Yeah.
And, that's what started the journey of putting the book together and really taking, and it took a while. It probably took about 18 months to write the book and figure out the principles. So the 14 principles I've identified are broken down into what I call 4 cycles. So test, build, accelerate, and scale.
Yeah.
I believe the principles apply to any business, actually any organization. I have nonprofits who are resonating with these principles. But how to grow? What are the things that Amazon has done to become arguably the most successful company in the world today? And will they stay that way? Probably not. But for right now, I think there are things to learn.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. I have more information in front of me than the audience has right now. One of the things that I see here is you analyze the letters, the 21 letters between 1997 and 2018. I mean, this wasn't just a small project. This was a long-term analysis. Question
Oh,
around
yes.
that. A question around this. I mean, maybe just it's the way your brain's wired. I mean, there are other people who read these letters, and yet you analyzed them and found those nuggets. Why were you able to do that? Do you
I
feel?
have no idea. I mean, honestly, Tom, I have asked that question. Given the success of the book, anybody could have done what I did. Why me? And actually, I do think one of the distinguishing factors that I bring is the lens of risk. So in the first chapter, which is called Risk and Growth, I talk about Bezos as being the master of risk.
Yeah.
Because I really do believe one of the key things that has allowed Amazon to be successful, allowed Bezos to do what he's done, is that he embraces risk and he takes risks strategically and is not afraid to fail. And that's where that first principle, encourage successful failure, comes in. He talks about experimenting and inventing on behalf of the customer. And he says in his letters, an experiment by its very nature means you're going to fail. Because if you're not going to fail when you do an experiment, it's not an experiment. And so businesses, the problem is as they grow, they tend to start protecting what got them there, not examining and experimenting on where they need to go next. And that means they won't be growing like they have when they first started.
Yeah,
So I do think, the answer to the question, I think, is my insurance risk management background provides a different lens to look at Amazon's growth.
no, absolutely. I mean, I'm thinking now about if I'm sitting in the boardroom of Amazon and I'm a leader and based on the principles that, you found in the Bezos letters, I mean, they must be looking out 10 years at what their business is going to be. It was interesting. I saw this map the other day and it had dots on it where Amazon is currently opening warehouses. I mean, they're so far ahead in their thinking. Let me ask you this question. We all have heard the stories of the blockbusters and with the word disruption. Uh, when you look at Amazon, are they disruption proof?
No, in fact, Bezos has been quoted a couple of times saying that Amazon, will be disrupted or will go bankrupt at some point. It's almost inevitable. What he hopes is it happens long after he's gone. But they continue to push back on that process, again, by continuing to focus on experimentation and invention. And again, that's one of the principles, is to be able to practice dynamic invention and innovation. So they have processes in place, mindsets that they work on, but to push that back as much as possible. And frankly, I would say, Tom, probably the biggest one, or maybe the most important, is my principle 14, which is believe it's always day one.
Yeah.
So there's a real mindset at Amazon that every time you walk through that door in the morning, when you come to work, it's like you were starting today. And Bezos, every single letter ends with some type of phrase that says, one, as is my practice, I attach a copy of our original 1997 letter, and he's done that every single subsequent letter, and some form of the statement, our approach remains the same, and it's still day one. And it's that idea that we are still a startup with 700,000 employees. That's just, it's hard to wrap your head around that thought process.
Oh, absolutely. It's funny because when you said that last part there, it took my mind on a journey somewhere else. I did a review for Steve's book, by the way, everybody, and I rated it 5 stars. I mean, I'm not going to be holding back on that. It's such a great read. It's on my shelf as a resource book. I'm passing it on to others. And then the thing that caught me was that when I have my own business, I mean, I'm from big corporate America, but I have my own company for the last 10 years, Steve. And when I used to look at Amazon and then look at little Tommy with his business, I mean, it wasn't on my radar that I could be like an Amazon in my mind, David and Goliath. But that's the thing about the book, the way you've written it and analyzed those principles. Anybody who is any size business can apply them. I think that's what's notable, can apply those principles in their own business. So give us one that if you're an entrepreneur today and you're starting a business, doesn't matter what it is, one of those principles that you want to share with us.
I think I would have to say principle 14, obsess over customers. Because that's, again, a core belief at Amazon. And here's the difference. Every business owner, you and I, Tom, everybody who starts a business knows we need to focus on customers. And we have words we describe: customer service, customer focus, customer journey, to describe our interaction with customers. But Amazon, and again, Bezos started this in the very first 1997 letter, he uses the word obsess. And that has a whole different connotation than focus, for example. And so, it is obsessing over the customer. What are their needs? And pretty much everything we credit Amazon doing started as obsessing over customers. For example, Prime and 2-day, now 1-day delivery. Well, back in the early 2000s, Bezos said, I want to do free delivery, because free delivery is a barrier, or paid delivery, right? Having to pay to ship is a barrier for people buying. If we remove that barrier, then they're going to buy more. And senior leadership team was totally against it. How can we afford it? It's going to cost too much. Nobody else is doing it. Why should we? And what he said was, if it's better for the customer, it will ultimately be better for Amazon and our shareholders. And so it's just a different, mindset in terms of how they think, one about invention, right? And also about customers.
Yeah, I agree with you. I got to share this personal story then. I bought my wife a product through Amazon. This goes back a couple months, Steve, and it was one of these little wand things you use to massage your face to develop better skin and whatever muscles. And I bought this thing and I paid pretty good money for it, $150 or so. And it came and about 6 months it broke. And so my wife calls and she calls the box had the number. She calls the supplier and they gave her the runaround. It was ridiculous. She got so frustrated, and Anna's a very patient lady. And so she turned it over to me because I bought it. I call Amazon. I told them the story. First of all, I went on their online chat. Boom, I had somebody fast talking to me. I told them the story. I said, we're getting running around from the supplier. They gave us a full refund without any questions, a full refund. And then they sent us the labeling and things. Like within literally half an hour, we got an email with labels to go to the post office, put those labels on a box, and ship it back. It was unbelievable. Yep. And that is exactly what you said. Talk about obsessing. And like I said to Anna, I said that was a bad experience from the supplier, but it was Amazon who actually turned it around and made us go back and buy the same product again.
Yeah. Exactly, because they stand behind it.
Yeah.
And one of the objections that I get and hear a lot is that, Amazon's putting the retail out of business. And I wonder, is it more that retails are day two companies? And I'm going to give you a little bit of a quote from one of the letters. This is from the 2016 letter. And Bezos talks about day two. So if it's day one for Amazon, what does day two look like? And he answers, and I'm quoting, day two is stasis, followed by irrelevance, followed by excruciating, painful decline, followed by death. And that is why it's always day one. So how many retail outlets are day two, right? Irrelevance, bad experiences, not going and the extra steps necessary to satisfy their customers, like the example you just gave. So Amazon maybe is putting retail out of business, or certainly some examples of it. but they're doing it to themselves because they're not continuing to step up and treat their
Yeah.
customers the way they want to be.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, I have friends in the retail industry, particular large companies like Costco, and they'll say things like we're being threatened by Amazon. But here's the thing, and I really believe this in my core that, and there's many things written on this. Napoleon Hill, for example, talks about it in his book Think and Grow Rich, that everything is created twice, once in a thought and second in the physical equivalent. You have leaders, CEOs, executives at the top of all these retail companies in a room thinking, innovating. They're responsible for creating the future. And, Bezos had it in his head, but I'm sure he built a team of people who think and create this. So why is it that other companies, other retailers are staying in day two versus day one? I'm going to jump now to another question, if you can talk about it. I believe in business that culture trumps everything. So creating a culture, if you're the CEO, creating a culture where you are creating a culture of innovation, bringing in the right people, the right talent to be able to think like that. Because it doesn't matter what, if you don't have the right talent to innovate and think, you can't create anything. There was something in your amazing book about 3 questions they ask every employee before they hire them. Maybe you can just touch on that and just talk a little bit about culture.
Yeah. Well, one, again, culture is one of the principles, and I agree with you. How do you maintain that culture? And frankly, one of the questions I was trying to answer is how in the world does Amazon maintain a culture when they have grown as big as they have?
Yeah.
Well, one of the ways is hiring the right people and not compromising on their standards. And so in the 1998 letter, he has this whole section where it's titled "Work Hard, Have Fun, Make History." And that's where he talks about in their hiring meetings, they ask people to consider 3 questions before making a decision. First, will you admire this person? And basically the question is, you want to work with people that you admire and will raise you up, not bring you down. So will you admire this person? 2, will this person raise the average level of effectiveness of the group they're entering? And they call that, will they raise the bar? Well, Amazon actually has a position called bar raisers, and it's not a full-time position. It's individuals who have demonstrated expertise at hiring good people. And they actually have authority to veto a hiring decision almost at any level within the company, because it is so core to culture to have the right people in place. And then the third question, which I think is really interesting, is along what dimension might this person be a superstar? And again, a weird question in some ways, but what else do they bring? Maybe not even work related. So in the 98 letter, he talks about a person who works at Amazon that's a national spelling bee champion. There is, you probably don't know this, there is an orchestra at their Seattle headquarters of Amazonians who come together. They play once a week. Again, what other dimension do they bring to the job, and what other dimension are they a superstar in? Because that probably means they're more creative, they're more open, right? They bring a different skill set than just technical expertise.
That's amazing. First of all, everybody, this is a great teaching moment on the show. Come back and listen to those 3 questions and put them into practice in your own hiring. Pretty amazing stuff. I want to ask you one more question, then we'll move to bringing this to a close, and we'll have to have you back, Steve. There's so much to talk about, and that's around this is a strategic planning question that I use sometimes with others. If I put it on the whiteboard, I'm going to ask you to be Steve Bezos for a minute. Maybe unfair, but I'm going to stretch you. I think you're a brilliant man. And you're Steve Bezos. And the question is, Steve, what will the world look like when you're done with what you're doing? What will the world look like when Amazon is done with its work?
So one of the things that I bring out in the book, and I talk about it in the last chapter called Beyond Amazon, and I think very few people understand Bezos, and I'm going to separate now Amazon from Bezos, but
Yeah.
understands Bezos because one of the principles I have and I talk about is apply long-term thinking. And for Bezos, it looks like people going to space, factories being moved to space so that the Earth can become a national park. Now, let me
Wow.
give you a little bit of background there. Bezos graduated high school in Miami, Florida, as valedictorian. And in his valedictorian speech, he talked about the necessity of protecting the Earth. And he had a vision that people would live in space and we'd make things in space, and they would come to the Earth because it was a national park to visit, like we go to parks today. And so when you think about long-term thinking, Bezos takes it to a whole different level. And his space company, Blue Origin, right? So you certainly hear about Elon Musk and SpaceX, Blue Origin, and then Richard Branson, kind of the three space barons. But what Bezos is doing at Blue Origin is actually creating the infrastructure necessary to allow entrepreneurs in 20, 30, 50 years to create space companies in their dorm room.
Wow.
And today you can't do that.
No, you
right?
can't.
Right?
Yeah. That's incredible. I mean, I'm visualizing in my mind now that whole scenario. And I should tell you that downtown Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, not far from where I live here, the old Vancouver post office, the big federal building, it's currently under renovation, and Amazon's second headquarters will go in there. And there's this buzz around our city. I mean, my daughter's 22 in university, and these millennials, when you talked about what you just talked about, I got this chill up my spine because they say that the next generations want to work for purposeful companies. The millennial generation are the most generous with their time, but they will only go in workplaces where there's something connected to the planet or some passion or purpose. I mean, what a huge purpose that when you start talking about what you just said. I mean, I'd love to work at Amazon if I'm, coming up and wanting to be a leader of the future.
Yep, exactly.
Unbelievable.
And there's huge opportunity at Amazon too, and that's again something that's not kind of known that well or talked about that much. But if you're smart, you're willing to take risks, you're willing to learn. There really is a lot of opportunity at Amazon.
Yeah, and you and I talked about this offline, but just for the audience, in my neighborhood, at the seasonal point in Christmas, they were advertising on the radio Amazon for seasonal workers, and it blew my mind. The ad said, Amazon seasonal work, $1,500 signing bonus, no resume required, and they would transport you from the local train station to the warehouse. I mean, the other retailers were struggling just to hire people for that season, and this is what Amazon's doing.
Yep.
I guess I'll close by saying this on the whole Amazon topic, that I guess when you're the richest man in the world and you deserve it and you've created such a large company with such resources, you can do anything you want when you have the capital and the brain power. Let me ask you one more question, then we're going to move to talking about the book, how we can get it. And that is, what's your most favorite thing to do with those 7 grandchildren?
So actually, I would say cooking is my hobby, which my wife completely supports, by the way. And so I just have great fun doing stuff in the kitchen with them, making cookies or whatever we're doing. They're 6 and under, so they're a little bit young. Some of the smaller ones, but some of the bigger ones now are starting to get big enough where they appreciate time making cookies and stuff. So love doing that.
My heart just grew. I'm a home chef. My wife would agree with you. I can just visualize you reading them stories, and as you're reading it, stopping and saying, now the principle behind that paragraph.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty incredible. I'm going to let you toot your horn a bit about the book. Now, I know this book has become a phenom, I call it. It's done things that most authors would pray for. Tell us what it's done.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, so it appeared on the Wall Street Journal and USA Today bestsellers list. So really thrilled with that. And we have sold, we being the publisher, Morgan James, sold foreign rights in now 12 countries. Actually, we found out just last week that China has now purchased the rights to publish the book in China in simple Chinese. But we've got Korea, Japan, Taiwan, Russia, Bulgaria, Thai, Vietnamese, Portugal, India, and actually we just got, Tom, you'll appreciate this as an author, a physical copy of the book in Korean.
Wow.
And, there's just, you see kind of, we've gotten the cover images, but there's just something different about holding a book and you can't read it. But yeah, it's been a fun ride and a wild ride.
And you never, I can imagine that you never predicted this would happen in 4 months.
Oh my gosh, not by any stretch of our imagination. And I also have to say, Tom, that the book is written with Karen Anderson, my wife. She is an amazing writer, editor. She's been in the book publishing business for a long time, and your enjoyment of the book is due to her ability to write and craft a story around the principles.
Well, that's awesome. I want to just honor you with a couple things here. One is the word gratitude. I mean, they say, I know this, there's science behind it, of course, that when you live a life of gratitude, when you do selfless things for others, you receive, the universe gives you. And if we heard the story as Steve started out here, everybody, this is a man who's got a big heart. He doesn't have an ego. Steve told us at the beginning that he started analyzing these letters and writing an ebook to give away to people, to enrich their lives and their thinking. That's amazing. Well, it was published and the universe is now returning to Steve. So there's a lesson in that in itself, Steve, that we can be inspired by a man like you who began this project by simply doing what you do best, which is giving to others and the universe. So everybody find that idea, no matter what it is, keep giving to others, and you too will have success no matter what it is. I want to honor you with 5 leadership words. I write these down if you're in studio with me. You see me doing it as you're talking. The first one is visionary. You're a visionary, Steve, no question. Number 2 is wisdom. From just all the the years of analyzing in your background, he's a man of lots of wisdom. 3 is maven, out of the book Outliers. I remember that word about somebody's a go-to person for a specific authority. That's you. And of course, bringing in, when I asked you the question about the grandchildren, I did it for a reason. You could see the change in your voice and the inflection. This word is love. I mean, you're a man who knows how to share your love. And I'm going to add one more to the list, which to embarrass you, which is bar raiser. You have raised the bar in the area of being an author and with this book. So it's incredible. So last word goes to you. Tell us the website or whatever it is where people can get this and get a hold of you.
Sure. So the book is available online at Amazon as well as other, and actually in for those of you in Canada, help me, Tom, what's the big bookstore in Canada? Indio?
Chapters. Or Indigo Chapters.
Indigo, yeah. So evidently there are copies of the book in each of their retail locations, but certainly online. And then there's some bonus materials around the book that you can download at thebezosletters.com. And just click on bonus material and you'll be able to download some of that material to help you as you work through the book.
Well, that's fantastic. Everybody get this book. I've read it, rated it highly. I highly recommend you get it. Listen to this show on your favorite podcast channel. iTunes is one. Give it a rating to honor Steve's work. We haven't heard the last of Steve and this book. I'm sure that there's going to be much more we can talk about next time. So Steve, thank you. Will you come back again?
Oh, absolutely, Tom. It'd be my pleasure.
Phenomenal. Well, everybody, thank you for listening to the Quiet Warrior Show. Live with passion like you hear from Steve. Find that true purpose and live the life that you deserve and desire.
Thank you for listening to the Quiet Warrior Show. Create is a motive-based leadership development firm. www.kreat.ca